Alright guys, here we are. We're diving in how to incorporate turn to base in your missions. I have tried this video before and failed at it, at least in my opinion, but this time, let's hope we get this knocked out. So I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, and I've laid out the mission in order of appearance. We're going to start off on the left-hand side with spawn, and we're going to click on the icon, and we're going to have this a runway startup, which means that your rotors are spinning when you get there. The spawn finish has absolutely no connection added to it. That is generated automatically when you have the next icon in the list, which is search and rescue. Inside of search and rescue, you can see that it does not have any information on the left-hand side as far as a connection goes, but it does on the right. That left-hand side connection is done automatically. But when we hoist complete, on this side, we're going to have two different actions take place. We're going to activate a land at the hospital objective and a land at the hospital trigger. So the first thing it's going to do is the land at the hospital trigger, which has a left and right side attachment. To activate, it will be the hoist complete. Then on the successful side of thing, it also has a connection to the patient transfer timer trigger. That's going to activate that when we get to this objective. From there, once we complete that successfully, it's going to trigger that. And next in line is the activation of the hoist complete to the landing at the hospital trigger. Once you land, that triggers the timer, and it also triggers the success at the land at the hospital objective. This is like a huge tongue twister of things, but what you can do on this is sort of dive in. So if you see the landing here and it says the connection is going towards the land at hospital successful, well, what does that mean? If you click on this, it brings you up to that land at hospital action. Now I have the activate on start off. The activate is completed when you complete the hoist. The success is linked to the landing at the hospital. But on the other side, the success triggers the activation of the patient transfer. See what I mean by this could be a little bit of a tongue twister? Trying to follow through all of these gets to be a little bit interesting. Now, if you notice here, what I've done is I've triggered on the land at the hospital trigger, and that is activated by the hoist complete, but it's not deactivated by anything. You have to be aware of what activates and deactivates certain situations. So when patient transfer hits, it doesn't have a deactivation. It does have activation of landing and the successful landing, both the trigger and the objective. Then it also has a return to base activation, which is a trigger and a objective. So I have both of those things taking place further down the progression of the mission. Hopefully this isn't making this more confusing than it needs to be, because in my mind it actually took me quite a while to figure out how this all works. So once you land, you want the land at hospital to go away. So I believe I put that in the deactivation here. So what land at hospital is successful. Where's the deactivate? So it's going to deactivate this successful patient failure. It's so much more confusing trying to explain it than doing it. I don't know why, but this is a very confusing subject for me to explain. Hopefully it's coming across, and hopefully what's even better is that the missions that I've included in the description of this video are downloadable for free that include this and 3 other missions where you can basically use them like a template. So hopefully that's more handy than me trying to explain this, because to me, in my own head, just working this out with you guys, it kind of comes across almost as gibberish. We'll see. The RTB is activated after the patient transfer's timer trigger has elapsed. I don't have any of the failed or aborted or anything like that. The RTB successful, I don't really have, it looks like a link here, or failed or aborted. That is the RTB objective. The RTB trigger has a no deactivate. There we go. There's the mission success. So that is the trigger, not the objective. All right, so again, we'll try to run through this and see what we can do. So we're going to start off with the spawn. It goes from spawn to nothing because the next thing in line is the search and rescue. The search and rescue has hoist completed, which activates the land at the hospital. This is a objective, right? It's activated by the completion of the hoist. Success is linked to the trigger of landing at the hospital, which is what I believe takes the flag in the upper right hand corner down once you do touch the ground, or I should say in this case the top of the skyscraper. Then on the right hand side, the success is transferred to the patient transfer. That's a timer trigger. Once the timer trigger is active, that's started both when you land and at the successful landing. So you can't just land anywhere. It has to be at the target objective. It does not start right away. It's not active on start. You can change the timer trigger. We do want to see it on screen, which is why that is checked off. And there we go. Once the timer is elapsed, it's going to activate the trigger for the landing as well as the objective for the landing. Right? So that's going to transfer here as well. So now what this looks like in real time once we save and play it. This is a relatively short mission. Again, this is something that you could kind of use just as a template. Once this loads in. Then again, these missions are included in a link down below. So it's probably easier just to use them as a template than it is to try to listen to me follow along. I don't know why. This one seems to burn my brain a little bit. It took me quite a while to learn how to do this. Of course, I'm the type of guy that's not going to open up the directions, right? I'm going to try to do it on my own, like most of us probably do. But you can see that in my EFB, there is not a magenta line that leads me to my sailboat. I have done that on purpose to increase the difficulty of the missions, so you have to rely on your compass as well as the direction that the mission hub is giving you in the upper right hand corner. On the EFB, you can also see a static airplane icon sitting there in the water just off my maybe 11:30 right now, coming into the 12 o'clock position. And he does not have smoke. This is another option that I absolutely love about the mission hub, is that smoke can be disabled. bit of an overshoot.
Enter a hover key.
We are flying off of the Chicago Lakefront this afternoon.
Cable out. Steady. Cable up.
All right, so now you can see the mission progressing there. Once the hoist is complete, we get the rescue completed, also going to the green, and it brings up the land at hospital objective. And again, this is going to be kind of one of those things where you need to pay attention to your heading and the heading it's requesting, because the magenta line is not anywhere to be seen, so this is a little bit more of a difficult challenge. Of course, we'll be coming up to one of my favorite helipads here in Chicago. It's a Children's Hospital. Now, as soon as we touch down on the helipad, we should get the land at hospital going green and bringing up the timer. A little bit of a ground effect when we hit the pad. And there we go. Land at hospital goes green. Patient transfer timer comes up and starts to count down. I'm not sure if you can do this without the timer. I haven't tried it yet. I actually kind of like the timer. Brings a little bit more realism to it. Definitely a feature you can't do in any other third-party add-ons like the Hype performance groups, you know, H145. And there we go. Now we have the RTB 2.31 nautical miles away at our 170. It's going to be back over at the Meigs field. And again, the only way to really get there with this mission is through that compass and heading. Feel free to download the missions from the description. Use these as a template within your own mission hub. There are 4 missions that I have created in that link. Again, those are for free. I am not monetized. I am not a sponsor, affiliate, or anything like that. This is just a helicopter that I can absolutely get behind, and a mission hub that I am very fond of. This is fantastic. Now you can add timers to each step throughout the mission as well, if you'd like. You can get as complicated as you want. One thing that I've tried to do is incorporate 2 different missions into one flight. So say we drop a patient off at the hospital and we want to go back and get another patient. It looks like the only way to really do that is if you start both missions from the get-go, right? It's not like you complete the one and then once you land at the hospital and deliver your patient, it doesn't trigger the second mission. I think that would be pretty cool. The both missions just kind of appear at the start. I guess at that point you'd really want to be able to use the waypoints. And there we go. Once we are on the ground, we get the congratulations for the successful mission, and we're good to go. It's absolutely fantastic. This mission hub is absolutely everything it needs to be, and then some. When you're doing some of these over the boats, it gets a little bit difficult when you are trying to plan your landing. So say for instance, what I want to do is actually have a boat out in the water that I want to land on, like the cutter, and it's going to be moving. So if I were to do that, what you need to do is find out where you want the boat to be traveling and just kind of click with the left mouse button to bring up the list. And we're going to go to, let's say, world ship, and we'll add in a cutter that is going north at 15 knots. Sounds good, basic, here we go. So, if this is going to be moving north at 15 knots and I take off now and conduct a mission and come back, how far is this thing going to travel before I'm ready to actually even land on it? And how do you trigger the landing when it's moving? So the way that I figured to do this out is to actually left click one more time and add in a rectangular trigger. I'm going to add this in here and change the width. I believe it is. No, it's the other one. So we'll go with length, and we're just going to make it longer by a lot. And now with the stream, I'm getting up. There we go. Oh, that's a little bit too much. Things are starting to freak out just a little bit. All right, maybe not 400. Wonder why it's slowing down so much. This does get really chunky for me, but now I have this trigger area. So what I can do is say that, all right, it's probably going to take me, I don't know, 5-6 minutes to get the mission done, and I should be landing maybe somewhere around here if it's going 15 knots. And we'll just take a stab at it. So we're going to get a landing trigger out in the water. Click on this, and we're going to take the radius and we're going to pump it up a little bit. Let's go to something like 900, maybe even 1,000. Let's go with 4,000. There we go. It's not impacting the land too much, but now we have this area along this northerly path in which we need to be landing in. So we're going to be up around like the Lincoln Park area by the time this lands. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It's a trial and error sort of situation, all right, which is important when it comes to developing these missions, is to trial and error the mission. So now what we'll do is let's come down to the airport, which they have here as the Northerly Island Nature Area, and don't have the information for Meigs Field properly displayed, but that's okay. We are going to go with a spawn objective right here at the beginning. Then we'll come out just a little bit. We'll say that this is a scenario of activities, search and rescue. Come on. Somewhere out here. Search and rescue. And then we're going to need to choose our hospital. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I have an idea in my head to take off from the airport, rescue a survivor, drop the survivor off at the boat, and then go to a hospital, and then land at the base to add in one more level of difficulty. This is something I've never tried before. Let's see what we can do. So now let's come into the hospital. Right here, and we're going to add a landing trigger there. Again, we should probably put in our objective here as well. Call this the land and hospital. We do not want it active on start. For the landing trigger, I want to make sure that this is hospital pad. We do not want this one active on start again, but this is going to help me with the arrangement over here on the left of the icons and the progression of the mission. I'm not going to put any of the links between all of these mission steps just yet, but we will get there. Let's see if we have everything in place. We may need to move the boat just a little bit closer, or the landing trigger here. I don't know. What do you think? 15 knots? Let's try it from where it's at, or at least closer to it. All right. So now, let's start moving these up and down. So we're going to start the mission with a spawn. Then we're going to do the search and rescue. And fly to the ship, which is inside of the rectangle trigger. We're going to land, and we do need an objective there as well. So let's come back up towards this area and drop in an objective. And this objective will be called Land on the Cutter. One thing that I believe is causing all of these stutters is you can see that it's saying that there's issues, and every keystroke is actually a double input in your settings, if you know what I mean, right? It's controlling your keyboard for the text box and the simulator at the same time, and it causes those issues. So that's what I believe is part of it. Let's go ahead and do this, copy this, paste it here. I do not want that active on the start. We're going to activate land on the cutter by the completion of the SAR mission. There we go. So now that we are on the cutter, we're going to have another trigger, which is going to be a timer. We're going to call this one patient transfer. It's not active on the start. We are going to activate the timer with a successful landing, and we are going to activate with a successful objective. I believe that's how that's going to work. So now once that's done, we're going to also put in another trigger, which is a takeoff trigger. We're going to call this one takeoff trigger. That should work. We're only going to, I believe, take off once. Well, let's go here. From cutter. See how it's changing the background, right? You can see now that my camera outside, and that's just from typing. So I think it's causing an issue that there's so many button mappings that are overlapped in this thing. It winds up causing graphical issues as well. I digress. I take the active on start off one more time, and bring this back up to something like 1200. There we go. It's still going to be traveling, so I'm going to try to incorporate that distance into the mix. The takeoff is going to be triggered by the time elapsed. Which is going to be connected to the objective at the hospital. So the takeoff is going to be a forward connection to the objective, which is activated. All right, so when we take off, it's going to it should, quote unquote, activate that objective, which is land at the hospital. Once we're successful at the hospital, it's going to start another timer. Maybe a little too close on this again with the graphics, but we'll see. So we're going to come in here and add another timing trigger. Let's call this one hospital. Doctor drop-off. Yeah, we'll just call it Doctor drop-off. DJ drop-off. So we brought a corpsman with from the hospital on this mission, and he's got to go back home. Right? It's not going to be active on start. We're going to take the timer. Let's make it something quick, like maybe, I don't know, 7 seconds, whatever that winds up to be. We'll show it on the screen. It's going to be titled Dr. Drop-Off. There we go. And we need to go back to the other timer as well, because I don't think I put a time in there. Nope, I did not. Good call. So let's go ahead and put in something like maybe a 10 here. Show it on the screen. This is going to be called the patient transfer here. So just going to make all those nomenclatures match up. So I believe in the progression of the mission. We are at the hospital with our patient. You can tell that by the arrow stopping at the objective. It's being activated by the takeoff trigger. Nothing links to success. So let's see. We add a connection here. It's going to be to the activate the landing. We're going to come in and actually remove this. Directly on the hospital's helipad, as close as it can get already. Nope, let's go a little closer here. And in the radius, let's bring this down to something like 20. Okay. And that changes the radius in which you can land in order to complete that mission step. So then the landing is going to connect to the activation of this timer. Inside of this timer, it's not active on start. Alright, so we have that. There should be a tie somehow to the objective completion here as well. This always gets confusing. Again, feel free to use the missions that I've included with this as a template, because I've already been through this mind-bending process more than once. And the easiest way to really do this is just go through it, figure out what's going on, fly the mission, see what's wrong, come back and attempt to fix it. So once the time is elapsed, we are going to trigger the RTB at the base. And you cannot reattach that to a spawn. So what you need to do in this instance is literally create another objective. Remember, the most important thing about this is having something to link to. There are several options that you can't even link it to, right? Like, there's just a ship. There is no activating or deactivating it, right? So we're going to need to put in an objective down here, which is a scenario objective. And we're going to call this one RTB. Open it up and title it RTB. We do not want it active on start. We want to activate the RTB by the completion of our timer. And there we go. So, is it ready or isn't it? That is the question. So let's see. In our spawn right now, I'm just going to make this easy for now. It's going to be runway. All right, so the props are going to be spinning already. Let's go with this. We'll call this the 4-stop mission. Why not? And we'll see if everything goes according to plan. Frame rates are way down. But now hopefully, since I'm done screwing around in that menu where the keystrokes on the keyboard overlap, we'll get some frame rates back. Moving around in this thing like that are some pretty abrupt graphics. I'd like to clean that, see them clean that spawn up a little bit. Alright, we are at the pad, ready to find the target. We're going to first come into the aircraft. And make sure everything is good to go. We'll put the pilot in there, why not? Come to the overhead, and we're going to activate our hoist, put that in the all position. And let's see if we can't get some of these frame rates back up from 14. Rough. And I've heard so many people say that maybe it's your internet speed or something like that. Not normally, because when I'm flying the 60 around and I'm not dealing with the mission hub, these issues don't come up. They also don't come up if I'm outside of my settings and I don't have to play around with the menu settings or the keyboard while I'm flying. Game Boy just answered some of my questions. Awesome. Good to know, man. Happy to help. Now, I did leave the smoke on, unfortunately, for this mission. Let's do a little sim rate increase and decrease here. Hopefully these graphics will smooth out sooner than later. I have not seen the cutter as of yet. Identifying the position of the cutter will also be incredibly interesting since it does not have an icon on the map. The 10 frames a second is killing me. If this doesn't crash, I'd be shocked. What a disappointment. And again, I believe that is because all of those keyboard strokes that I was doing inside of the mission hub control both the simulator and the text boxes simultaneously, and it starts to just push too much information at the same time or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's Maybelline. just annoying as hell, that's all I know. Because this was just literally at a 90 frames per second before I started the stream. And before I started getting back into the menu systems. And yes, it does happen every single time I am inside of those menus, typing and working in the mission hub. And then come back in for a flight. It slowly starts to bog down.
Steady. Cable out.
Get the hoist raised back up. Again, I would love to see a survivor in the basket. Maybe a flight mech hanging out the door. Alright, so now we have the hoist raised. But you can see that it did not trigger the hoist raised complete. Which is perplexing. I wonder if it's because I left the scene too soon. Rescue completed. See, that's why I believe it's more than just a frame rate issue here. There's stuttering happening within the actual simulation. Alright, so now it did successfully trigger land on the cutter. And it's giving me 310. Which doesn't make sense. Oh, 3 naha. Okay. I can read. 3 nautical miles away. A lot of pleasure craft out there today. Looks like I've got the cutter ahead. Miss it? Hmm. 193. But remember, the cutter is a moving object going 15 knots. I'm glad I didn't put a timer on this. The frame rates are really hard to watch right now. I'm half tempted to restart the either mission or the simulator itself. I think I'm going to restart let's start off with just the mission, because that's unacceptable. Let's restart. Yes, I want to restart. Let's see where this goes. Still got those frame rates all the way down by 15. I don't think this is going to do the trick, but we'll see. This is absolutely the negative of having to stream this content. I get how much better it is as far as the fidelity of the planet. But man, yep, still down to 13. What? I mean, why? See, now I'm not even in the mission hub. Unacceptable. let's see what happens if we just simply go to the main menu. Let's try a career for just a second. Let's reintroduce the buffer to something else. It's not good. This thing should be sitting at like 600 frames a second. There's literally nothing happening, but the FPS is still at 16. All of the menu systems look slow and sluggish. I mean, I'm just working through the menu system, and it's got this thing pushed at 100% on the GPU. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's come in without anything else to Chicago one more time. Look at how long it takes just to load the planet. And I've got a pretty hefty internet going right now. It's not like my internet's slow at all. This is literally like an optimization within the Mission Hub. It seems like, again, like I said earlier, when I interact with the Mission Hub, the keyboard, it seems to take a real negative effect on the performance. Nice little overhead of what will soon be the former Soldier Field. It's all the way down to 8. Yeah, this isn't going to work. It's taking boats off the water. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Literally interacting with it for just the first few minutes of this video went from flying great to absolute garbage just from interacting with the Mission Hub. It may have something to do with just how far I am pushing my settings as well. Let's see what happens. If we come into this, let's just try something. If we come into the settings and we dumb this down a lot. We come into global rendering quality. Let's bring the lower detail down. I mean, I don't have too much going on here, you know? It's not like this thing is... It's just so sluggish. It's garbage. And literally, it's every time I do this. You've seen it before in these videos when I've interacted with this. It's just, it's a shame. So I am going to call it a day with this one, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully what I've seen isn't a deterrent for you guys. I mean, hopefully what I've shown you is helpful in setting up missions with return to base. Yeah, it's a very difficult subject to discuss for some reason for me, but either way, I dye the grass. It's been a ball. It's a blast every single time, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That's all. Hopefully we can get some of this to make sense.